Last week, we're talking about cessation, which is nirodha. Remember, paticca samuppada, translated into the English language, is dependent origination. It explains the chain of causation that leads from birth to death. The chain of causation, the 12 links of the chain of causation that leads from birth to death for all sentient beings. In other words, when people ask, do we believe in reincarnation? Why? Well, the Buddhists believe in reincarnation, but not just the Buddhists. Some other religions, some philosophers believe in reincarnation. Reincarnation more and more is not a religion, is not only conveying religious connotation. Even people with no religion, they may believe in reincarnation. What happened to those kids, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and they could play jazz music or piano without learning? What happened to those kids, 6, 7 years old? They could sing like a soprano singer. At the age of 13, 14, they become a vocalist. What happened? Why? They didn't learn it in this life. They remember from the previous lives. They played it out from remembering. But something or some event, some occurrence must come to induce, to revitalize the seeds in the alaya consciousness that brings about this talent. They call it talent. I think they call it talent. Ingenuity. If people ask, what is reincarnation? How do we explain reincarnation? Easy to say, reincarnation is, you have a previous life and you came to this life. You die in your previous life and you came to this life again. That is too simple an explanation. What's the best explanation for reincarnation? Right here. Paticca samuppada. That's your best explanation. If you've been studying the Buddhist teaching for a while, 1 or 2 years, and people ask you, what is reincarnation? And you just say, you have a previous life and you have a next life. That's not sufficient. You can only get a C-. You want to get a B or B+, or even an A, explain paticca samuppada. So it's worth reviewing it again if you like. Last week we explained nirodha. What is nirodha? Nirodha is how to stop reincarnation, put an end to reincarnation. If you continue reincarnating, it's dangerous for you. Who knows what your next life is going to be? Who knows? You know. People associated with you know. Because whatever causes you have done in this life is what you're going to be in next life. If you want to know how come I am what I am this life, I want to know what I did in my previous life. Your becoming in this life is what you did in your previous life. In this life, you are a multi-billionaire. Why? Because you were very generous in your previous life. You are a philanthropist in your previous life. You save a lot of people. You donated a lot of money. You donated not just in kind, in sympathy. You are very generous. You've been giving out. You're not just receiving, wanting. You're not greedy. You give out everything. And the sutra says, in your previous life, if you always perform the act of giving, in this life you are a multi-billionaire. You are extremely rich. Just on that effect. Of course, studying Buddhism is not wanting to be rich, wanting to be a multi-millionaire. No. Assuming this person is a multi-billionaire in this life, and he was giving in previous life. He didn't study. He didn't take the spiritual odyssey to get out of reincarnation. He's still in the loop of reincarnation in karma. Then he reincarnates into a rich man. Why are some people so healthy? And some people are sick. Some people are not healthy. Why? Because you're healthy because you didn't kill animals in your previous life. You were compassionate in your previous life. Why were people short-lived? They live up to 30 years, 20 years. They suffer from sickness. They were cruel in their previous life to beings. So everything has an effect, and every effect will bring about a cause. So mind your thought. The effect comes from as minute, as delicate as a thought. Not just carrying out the action. Carrying out the action is already the karma is created. But it originates from a thought. That's the reason why you have to know your thought. Every thought counts. Every thought generates energy. So why are we meditating? Why we meditate? We want to make sure that we are in control of every thought. We want every thought to be in the path of enlightenment. We want every thought to be in compassion. We want every thought to be saintly. But that's difficult to do. Extremely difficult to do. Yesterday I came across a young man who asked me a question. And the young man has been studying Buddhism for a number of years. And then he said, Reverend, whenever I am doing exercise, bicycling and swimming, and he's an athlete. He likes exercise. He likes swimming and all kinds of exercise, hiking and all that. He said, whenever I'm concentrating doing exercising, I don't have any bad feelings. I just concentrate on my exercising. I don't feel depressed. I don't have any mental afflictions, no mental defilements. And whenever I'm doing exercising, hiking and all that, and whenever I'm sitting down for meditation, all this greediness and all these mental afflictions come up in me. How come? Should I just abandon meditation and just take on to exercising? Well, good question. How do you answer that question? It's tough. It's true. The same applies. I said, my answer is quite lengthy, but let's make it short. The same applies to if you're a gambler, you go into a casino, you're so overwhelmed by this satisfaction of your senses, like an athlete is exercising, he's so overwhelmed by his concentration of the activities that he didn't have any other depression. He wouldn't think about sorrow, lamentation, and physical suffering because he's in the process of satisfying his senses for the short time. He's doing biking and hiking. He's doing bicycling, swimming. He forget about everything about sorrow. You know why? Because when he is doing this, he's dealing with only the sixth senses, the sixth sense, the mano consciousness. This sixth sense, remember we have 8 consciousnesses: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and lastly, the mental, the brain, the thinking consciousness. But that's the sixth consciousness. This thinking consciousness dominates all these other 5. In other words, he's the manager. He's extremely powerful. Everything has to go through him because he can relate to the past and projection to the future. He's extremely powerful. He's very active. He's responsible for greediness, hatred, all the mental defilements, you name it. He's responsible for that. When you're angry, he's agitated. When you feel sad, he's crying. When you feel joyful, he's happy. So that's You've got that and I've got that, the sixth consciousness. When you are in the process of satisfying all these other five senses, your tongue, your taste, when you're eating food and it's delicious, you never have any other, you don't have a sorrow overwhelming you. That's when you're gambling, when you're exercising, when you are going for partying, listening to music, going out dating, courtship, you name it, you name all these things, the sixth sense. But when you're meditating, you're not only dealing with your sixth sense, you're dealing with your seventh and your eighth consciousnesses. What is this seventh? The seventh consciousness. Your ego consciousness. What is the eighth? Your alaya consciousness. You're dealing with something very delicate. You're dealing with something deep inside. And it comes back to haunt you, because all these seeds of sorrow, seeds of lamentations, seeds of depressions, all in the alaya consciousness, when you sit still, it all come up. It's just like when a pool of water is agitated, all the pollutants are everywhere. You can see clearly. But when you allow it to sit still, that process is very difficult. When you're sitting down, you allow that process of pollutant settlement. It's extremely difficult, because you really have to use techniques to do it. So that's the reason why when you are exercising, when you are gambling, when you are having a fun time listening to music, when you're playing the computer, the iPad, you know, whatever, all these things, you all buried in there, your sixth consciousness agitated. And all this alaya consciousness that store all your past is not agitated. Your ego, who cares about ego? I'm playing. I have an ego, who cares? I like playing. So that's the reason why. So every time when we sit down and contemplate, you are one step closer to enlightenment, because you're fixing up yourself internally. You're looking at your alaya consciousness. You're looking at how your sixth consciousness is agitated. I'm sitting in here. Oh, I thought about last night's party. Oh, I shouldn't have said that, and he shouldn't have said this, and he infuriated me. I hate him. All these things come back again. But then you control it. No, I shouldn't. I'm sitting. I'm concentrating on my breath. In and out, in and out. Forget about all this depression. Forget about all this greediness. Forget about hatred, disappointment, fear, greediness, jealousy, all that. Forget about that. It's difficult. You're in the process of doing it. But if you've gone through all this process, purifying yourself, you're on your way to the saintly path. You're on your way to get away from reincarnation, because you're on your way not to create any more karma for yourself. Where you're in the casino, you're creating karma of greediness. When you go to party, getting up acquaintances, or getting up relationship, you bury in the sexual feelings of a relationship. You forget about all this paticca samuppada.